friends into our live session this morning. So feel free to use that chat throughout our time together. I'm seeing more and more people popping in here, so this is great. Welcome, everybody. All right, so it is just after 11 in the morning, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Thank you again for being here live with us this morning. To those of you who are here live, thank you again for just taking time out of your day to come hang out with us. We're really excited to answer your questions and give you a little bit of a behind the scenes look at content strategy and teach you a little bit about what we know. And to those of you who are watching the recording, thank you for registering and for spending your time with us too. So let's go ahead and get started. As we get started and as we welcome more friends into our chat today, please go ahead and grab a notebook and a pen or open up a Word doc. You are going to want to take some notes on what we share with you today, so make sure that you are prepared to write some stuff down. That said, we will send out the recording tomorrow, and you'll also be receiving a worksheet that'll help you make sense of everything you learned today. So if you missed something during the live session, don't worry, you will get the recording of this webinar, and you'll get a worksheet to go along with it. All right, thank you for saying good morning in the chat. It's lovely to see so many friendly faces. So I want to know, real talk, who has ever felt like this when you are trying to write content or send out an email or post on social media? Type yes in the chat if you can relate to this gif of Ron Swanson. Okay, definitely a handful of yeses flooding into the chat. Relatable, right? Yeah. So this is definitely relatable to a lot of people who are here with us live today. And I can absolutely relate to this too. Honestly, earlier this year, I was really strongly considering deleting social media altogether because I was just so sick of trying to figure out how to make it work for my business. I felt like I was just constantly spending time and energy on content creation and social media, but I wasn't actually seeing any real results in my business. So believe me when I say that I understand. I'm so glad that you're here joining us today because we're going to really help you shortcut this process. And I'm really stoked for you to meet and hear from Aria as well. So here is what you are going to learn in today's webinar. First, we're going to chat about some myths and truths about social media. Aria is going to cover this section, and I think a lot of you are going to be surprised and hopefully relieved by what she shares because she's going to tell you that you don't need to do things like viral dances in order to grow your business through social media. We will also take a behind the scenes look of content planning and creation. This is where I'm going to walk you through my exact process that Aria and I follow when we prepare and plan out my content for the month. And I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the impact that it's had on my business. Last, we are going to chat about how to get started building your content strategy. And for this, I'll pass the mic back to Aria, who will tell you how to get started with creating a content strategy that actually works for your business. So if we haven't met yet, my name is Sonia Eklund, and I am the Senior Director of Learning and Development here at Vibely, and I'm going to get my presentation back on the screen. Give me one sec here. Okay. So I'm the Senior Director of Learning and Development here at Vibely. I'm a board-certified health and wellness coach and a financial social work coach with 14 years of coaching experience. And I run a full-time coaching, consulting, and education business where I talk to up to 20 clients a week, consult with Vibely and with another health tech startup, and teach coaching skills and continuing ed courses for 3 different coach training programs. I started my coaching business as a side hustle back in 2011, and I ran it on the side of my corporate coaching and training career until 2024 when I took it full time. So I'll be back a little later on to tell you about my business's content strategy, but for now, I'm going to pass the mic over to my co-host and my amazing social media manager, Aria.
Thanks, Sonia. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. My name is Aria, and I'm a social media manager and coach. So I grew up in the US, splitting my time between Maryland and California, and I'm currently living my digital nomad dreams in Thailand. So if anyone wants travel tips, feel free to reach out. I'm a full-time freelancer now, working mostly with clients in the US, as well as in the UK, Asia, and even New Zealand. With a background in advertising and graphic design, I love using tools like Canva and CapCut, and one of my favorite types of clients to work with are coaches. Sonia and I actually met on Facebook, and collaborating with her over the past 8 months has been such a rewarding experience. I am so excited that you're here, and most importantly, to share tips to help you grow your coaching business and answer any burning questions you have along the way. So one of the first things we're going to uncover today are the myths and truths about social media. So since becoming a social media manager and coach, I have spoken to so many coaches who feel stuck on what to post. They know they should be online, but it feels overwhelming. And many get stuck in what I call the posting paralysis, and it can feel very stressful trying to keep up with every algorithm change. A feeling I'm sure clearly many of you here can relate to. So let's break down a few common myths and uncover what's actually true. Myth number one, you need to be on every platform to succeed. The truth is, you need to focus on where your ideal clients are because it's about quality over quantity. Do not fall for the idea that you need to be everywhere. Each platform is going to have its own strategy. So, what's going to work on LinkedIn is not going to work on Instagram or Pinterest. I really recommend starting with one or two platforms and master them. Each platform is going to require different kind of energy and content style. So trying to do it all is just going to lead you to burnout. Myth number two, the more you post, the better your results. The truth is that relevance and connection matter more than frequency. Consistency helps, but don't post just to stay active. Create content that resonates and builds trust instead. A quick tip here is that saves and shares on Instagram, for example, actually matters way more than likes now, more than ever. So ask yourself, what's something my ideal client would want to save or come back to later? That's the kind of content that sticks. Myth number three, you need to go viral to grow. Growth comes from relatability, and it's not just about going viral. Authentic, shareable content is always going to outperform overly polished, high production videos. I am actually in a social media manager community, and some of the best performing posts that I hear time and time again are always filmed on iPhones. So you don't really need a fancy camera. So, sure, going viral is fun until you realize that none of those new followers that you got actually care about you and ignore the rest of your content, anyways. So, going viral a lot of times is about luck, but building trust and relatability is a strategy. Do not chase trends, create content that feels like you. Myth number four, growth happens overnight. Social media is a long game. Algorithms are going to shift constantly and it takes time to adjust. So it's normal to expect those naturals, ups and downs when it comes to your metrics. So, for instance, you might see steady growth in month one and month two, and then a dip in month three. I see this with every client I've worked with, and it's so normal. You got to focus on the progress and not perfection with small, consistent actions that is going to lead you to those lasting results. So remember that every post is a touch point that helps you build that long-term connection with your online audience. Myth five, social media is just about getting clients or selling. Reality is that it's your trust builder and your digital portfolio. Organic content helps you build that loyalty and credibility that lasts. So paid ads might get quicker results, but they don't help you build the relationships that you want. You have to showcase your expertise, your personality, your process, because people ultimately they buy from the people that they trust. So, for example, with Sonia's visibility across platforms, that's how she creates authority and connection. With LinkedIn, she used that to generate leads. With Instagram, she uses that to showcase expertise and personality through carousels and reels. With her email newsletter, she uses that to nurture and remind people of her services. And then her website is where she keeps all her services and her offerings up to date. So, social media isn't your only sales tool, it's only one piece of your larger marketing funnel. Myth number six, working with a social media manager means handing everything off. It is a highly collaborative partnership. Your authentic voice should always stay front and center. That's what connects with your audience. So when I work with my clients, I do handle the strategy, the planning, scheduling, analytics, but ultimately your expertise shapes the message. So collaboration is where the magic happens. And when I learn about your business, I use that to turn them into carousel posts, to reel scripts that you record, and stories that truly reflect your business and your voice. One thing I want to talk about here is limiting belief. A lot of coaches think that hiring a social media manager means that you can just stop showing up and hand everything off. But the truth is that there's no shortcut to building an authentic brand. Growth is going to take consistency, alignment, and also your unique voice. So going viral or gaining followers is great, but building community is always going to be better. Myth number 7: AI can write all your content for you. That is false. Clients want you and not the AI generated fluff. So you can use AI as a tool, but don't use it as a replacement. It's great for brainstorming or outlining ideas, but your stories, your voice, and your insights is what makes content feel real and trustworthy. So, overly polished AI visuals or captions can make your brand feel generic, and you need to keep it human because the best content sounds like a conversation and not a prompt. So, now I want to hear from you. In the chat, tell us which of these myths have you confused for a truth?
We'll give you a second to type that in there, and we're super curious to hear which ones of these resonate with you. For me, it was definitely feeling like it was going to be handing everything off. I didn't want to hand everything off, and that was actually one of the reasons I was resistant to work with a social media manager in the beginning. Love this. We're seeing Angie says needing to go viral. Yeah, you don't need to go viral. Lisa says you don't need to be everywhere. So true. Mary Beth comments collaboration versus handoff social media. Definitely a big learning. And the handling of it is surprising to Madeline. Thank you for sharing that, everybody. Feel free to keep typing your insights in here. And we also want to give you a second to just reflect on this question. What's your biggest takeaway from this? And what are you going to do differently moving forward? If you want to type in the chat, you are more than welcome to. Otherwise, you can take a second to just reflect on this question and know that towards the end of our presentation, we are going to have an opportunity for more chatting and more collaboration where you can ask us all your questions. So let's see. Aria, we also have social media as a long game from Bridget. Mary Beth says it seems more manageable than I thought. Awesome. Oh, we've got more things coming in here. So focus on quality over quantity, value trumps frequency, and social media is a long game. Definitely, all of those are kind of surprising things about this. Love it. Okay, feel free to keep sharing in the chat and telling us what your takeaways are. We're super curious to hear what you learned from all of this. And so what we're going to do now is we are going to take a behind the scenes look at content planning, looking at the way that we kind of bring content to life and plan content looks really different than what I thought it was going to look like when I first got started working with Aria. And I wonder if that might be true for some of you too. So for this, we're going to take kind of a behind the scenes look at what has happened in my business over the time that Aria and I have been working together. So I mentioned when I introduced myself that I took my side hustle coaching business full-time back in 2024. And a lot of people hear me say that and they make the assumption that I was so successful as a side hustler that I quit my day job and just smoothly transitioned from working full-time into running a thriving coaching practice. And while that is definitely the strategy that I would recommend that other people follow, my story ended up being a little bit different. So for some context, from 2011 to 2022, I ran my coaching practice as a side hustle while I worked as a health coach and a training professional at a corporate wellness company. In 2022, I took a director level dream job at a different company, but the job required me to shut down my private practice. So I stopped seeing clients, I stopped running workshops, and I stopped teaching classes. And I gave this job my all for about a year and a half. And you might not be surprised to hear that it did not turn out to be such a dream job after all. I've actually known that my actual dream was to run my own coaching, consulting, and education business as my full-time job since 2011. But this job was just a bit of a detour. So when I quit my director level job, I decided not to look for another job, but instead to take a chance, live off my savings, and see if I could get my private practice up and running again. So fast forward to now, and I've been running my business full-time since the beginning of 2024. I absolutely love what I do. And like many of you who are listening to this today, I started my business with a little bit of savings, a huge love for coaching, and some major grit and determination to try to make it work. And at the time that I met Aria, which was just about 8 months ago, I was running a pretty small operation. I had really just enough coaching and consulting clients to kind of keep me going. So I was pretty hesitant about hiring a contractor to work with me in my business. And I wasn't really sure that it was going to be the right move. But honestly, I also knew that my content strategy was not working. So here's a little bit of what my process looked like before I started working with Aria. And I want to know if any of you can relate to this. So feel free to let me know in the chat if this is kind of what your process looks like too. So before, I would spend hours working on a single post or a single email, and then I would feel super frustrated when only a really small number of people would see it. That gift from the beginning of this webinar was 100% me. I also had a lot of ideas, but I would not follow through on doing anything with them. And the result of that was that my ideas just sat on this big list in my computer that stressed me out and overwhelmed me anytime I looked at it. And finally, I constantly procrastinated content creation. I did not really see how content fit into my business's strategy. I have zero interest in having a big following or being an influencer. And I kind of thought that's what social media was about. So it felt like it was a little bit pointless to spend time on it. And especially because content creation wasn't a revenue generating activity in my business, it just kind of fell to the bottom of my to-do list. This whole process was super time consuming, annoying, and frustrating. And from looking at the chat, it definitely looks like some of you can relate to this experience. So I want to show you a little bit about what things look like now. Now, I write all of my posts for the month in one sitting. I block time for it on my calendar. I usually go to a coffee shop, and I honestly just enjoy the process of writing several pieces of content at once. I have an organized process with clear deadlines, which is what I'm going to walk you through next. Honestly, even as a coach, I'm always just a little bit amazed and surprised at what a little bit of coaching and accountability can do to help me get to the next level. And when I know that my content or my edits are due to Aria, I make sure to prioritize them. She is my accountability partner and my coach in helping me bring my content strategy to life. Last but not least, I now see the value of prioritizing content creation. I see the impact that it makes and the results that it generates in my business. And so I no longer feel the desire to procrastinate creating it. So let me start by giving you the high-level overview of what goes into planning a month of content. This is what the process looks like. And what we're going to do next is we're going to break down each and every one of these steps in more detail so that you can see exactly what it takes to bring a month's worth of content to life. So the process starts with writing content. For me, this looks like opening up my content planning Google Doc and just writing. Typically, what I do is I jot down a quick title and I write a really messy first draft of my idea. And then I go back and I revise it until it feels true to my voice and my point of view and my messaging. In this step, it's extremely important to note that you need to take the time to write high quality pieces during this step, because this is what Aria uses to create the reel scripts and the carousel posts for the finished products. So sending her like a website or AI generated content just really doesn't give her enough substance to make content that feels authentic or unique. So I want to reemphasize that the writing process is actually a really key piece of the puzzle. I typically write 8 to 12 content pieces every month, and I typically do my first drafts and my edits all in one big block of time. When I'm finished, I send it off to Aria before the 15th of the month. And then Aria works her magic, and she turns my writing into a document called a content plan. The content plan is a Google slide deck that includes a breakdown of all of my content pieces for the month. So she writes scripts for the content pieces that will become reels, which is what you're seeing on the screen right now. And she turns my writing into storyboards for the pieces that will become static carousel posts, which look like this. Now, during this step, Aria also includes visual references for both reels and static posts to give me an idea of what the final design will look like. I don't know about you, but I had zero experience doing video content or speaking directly to a front-facing camera on my phone or filming anything like this before working with Aria, and I was not super excited about getting started with the process. It was a learning curve for me. So having her provide me with visual references and super clear guidelines for how to film my content pieces and how to make content that actually looks good was really helpful as I learned how to do this. Once Aria sends me the content plan, I get to work editing and filming. Editing static carousel posts is super simple. It's just the two of us leaving comments throughout the Google slide deck and going back and forth until the post says what I want it to say. Filming is a slightly different story. It involves a ring light, a tripod, and a lot of incredibly awkward takes of me reading the script. But once I have everything filmed, I upload the raw footage, no matter how awkward or how long it is, into a folder for Aria to edit. Then Aria turns everything into a content calendar. This is another Google slide deck, but this time it includes the final static posts mocked up with their final visuals, captions, hashtags, and posting dates. So for a static carousel post, the finished product looks like this. And for a reel, it looks like this. So in the content calendar is where I get to preview the reels that Aria has edited, and it's where I get to double check all of the closed captions on the video, edit the captions for the posts, and approve the static cover images for my reel posts. Within the content calendar, I go ahead and edit and approve the final posts. So with all of the fully mocked up posts in front of me, I leave comments with any last minute edits or adjustments or notes before I give her my final approval. And we do this by just leaving super simple comments in our Google slide deck, which makes the editing process really simple. Within the content calendar, I also get a mock-up of my feed that Aria creates for me, as well as the suggested posting dates for each content piece. And once I approve everything within the content calendar, then Aria gets to work scheduling. And then my posts just appear on my Instagram and Facebook feeds without me ever thinking about it. The next step in the process is repurposing and scheduling content across other platforms. So for me personally, that includes my blog, my email list, and my LinkedIn. This looks like taking each piece of content and slightly adapting it for each platform. So that means that I used every single idea from my original content planning Google Doc at least 5 times across 5 different platforms. For me, those are Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, my blog, and my email list. And what this results in is that I get my work in front of people who might be on my email list, but they're not on social media, or people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn, but who aren't on my email list. And it just means that there's a better chance that each content piece is going to be seen by the people who want to see it instead of just getting lost in the void of the internet. Next up, we've got community engagement. And this is probably the most important part of the whole puzzle of content strategy, because writing great content is one thing, but using that great content to spark real conversations and build authentic relationships is another. So seeing my content strategy as a way to connect with other people, meet new people, introduce myself to potential collaborators, and let people know who I am before they ever meet me has been a major perspective shift for me. And I now understand that that's the whole point of my content strategy. This makes the time that I spend online feel really meaningful and purposeful. And honestly, it's way more fun and way more engaging than just scrolling my phone. I actually feel like I am using social media to be social instead of using social media to be isolated. The last step in the content creation process is reviewing my monthly analytics report. So this on the screen is a report that Aria compiles from Instagram and Facebook data every month. She includes key pieces of info like new followers, the number of interactions on my page, profile visits, content views, and the number of people that I reach. The analytics you're seeing on the screen are from 1 month of working together after we published just 8 content pieces, and these numbers have continued to grow. When I started working with Aria, I let her know that my goal is not to be an influencer, it's not to grow a huge following, and it's not to grow viral. I was really clear that I want to show up online authentically, build connections, and build trust. And those metrics are a little bit harder to measure, but they're far more worthwhile and impactful for me and my business. Okay, so we just walked through every step of the process for what it takes to bring a month's worth of content to life. And I want to know, what's your biggest takeaway from hearing about the content planning process? So I'm going to give you a second to type in the chat. What are you taking away from the information we've just shared? It's too much. I hear you. It feels overwhelming. I hear that too. Definitely. It's a lot. Love the editing and planning resource. Repurposing and scheduling is fantastic. to really break it down rather than thinking about creating posts as one big task. Absolutely. Okay, this is awesome. Yes, love that you said it's awkward. Oh my God, it's so awkward. It's still awkward. Even after 8 months, it's awkward to film yourself and talk to yourself in front of a camera in a room by yourself. It's just kind of a weird thing to do. But this process definitely makes it easier. Okay, Aria, any comment you want to comment on in here? I'm seeing a lot of comments
Trying
about
to
how it's a
scroll
lot.
past.
Yeah.
Don't worry, in the next session, the next section of this webinar, we're gonna go into the nitty gritty and you guys are gonna get even more clarity on how we're gonna break that down.
Yes, absolutely. We are not done yet. Inspired to get more organized and figure out a better system for myself. Totally hear this. Okay, awesome. So we're going to keep going. I think we're going to answer a lot of these questions along the way, but thank you for sharing that. So I totally hear you for those of you who are saying that this sounds like a lot of work. It is. It honestly is. And it's taken a little while to get to the point where it doesn't feel hard anymore. There definitely were a few times in the process where I kind of wanted to give up because it just felt like a lot. But I want to just kind of do a quick summary of what we just went through. Here's what I do every month in order to bring my content to life. I write my content pieces in a Google Doc. I provide Aria with a big folder of photos to use in creating my content. I edit my content plan. I film my reels. I edit the content calendar. I approve all the pieces of content. And I repurpose and schedule the content to other platforms and respond to comments throughout the month. Here is what Aria does. She turns all of my writing into static posts or reel scripts. She creates the Google slide deck for my content plan, responds to all the edits I make within the content plan, edits my video footage into beautiful reels, creates my content calendar, chooses suggested posting dates for my content, provides me with a grid mockup, creates captions based on my writing, suggests hashtags that will improve visibility, responds to all edits within the content calendar, schedules all the posts onto Instagram and Facebook, pulls data and compiles a monthly analytics report, and she provides me with suggestions for adjusting my content based on what's working and what's not. Not to mention that she is super quick to respond to all emails and is always down for a meeting, even though we live in different time zones. How crazy is that list, right? That is a lot of things that Aria ends up doing to help me bring my content strategy to life. But what I want to really illustrate is the impact that this has had in my business. So before I hand it back to Aria to talk about how to get started creating your content plan, let's talk a little bit about what I've seen in my business over the last 8 months. The first thing that I've really noticed is I don't hate content creation anymore. I actually really look forward to my monthly writing dates. And anytime that I have an idea for something, I know exactly how to write it down and where to write it down. The process itself no longer feels stressful or overwhelming. And considering how I felt about this whole thing when I started, this was a really big deal for me. Second is that I spend a lot less time scrolling. I used to create my content on Instagram, which meant that I would get distracted, like a lot. And now I spend less than 45 minutes a day on social media, which has majorly helped my mental health and my productivity. I spend more time coaching, consulting, and teaching. I spend a lot more time doing things that actually generate revenue and help me grow my business and are actually the work that I want to be doing. My posts go out on a schedule. This means that they get published when I'm coaching or on vacation or sleeping or hanging out with friends. And I love that I do not have to be glued to my phone thinking about when something is going to be published. It's just done for me. My audience is growing. So I've added about 2,500 people to my audience across my email list, Instagram, Facebook, blog, and LinkedIn since Aria and I started working together. I want to emphasize that I don't have a big audience, and having a big audience is not my goal. What I do have is an engaged audience. This kind of slow and steady growth means that not everyone is going to find me or follow me, but the people who do tend to be the right ones for me. And last, I get to spend my time on building real relationships. I prioritize connecting with the people that I meet online. Sometimes it ends up just being a nice conversation and nothing more, but other times it leads to friendship, collaborations, referral partnerships for my coaching practice, consulting gigs, teaching jobs, and coaching clients. Using my content as a way to take the relationship offline has honestly been the best part of this journey for me. Okay, so now that you've gotten a little bit of the scoop of what it looks like to actually create content, I'm going to pass it back over to Aria to talk about applying this in your business.
Thank you, Sonia. So now that we've talked about what not to do and what the content planning process looks like, let's talk about how to actually get started building your content strategy in a way that feels simple and aligned with you. So before I jump into that, for me, I'm kind of still stuck on that earlier slide. It may
Oh,
just be on my end.
huh.
Is it
Let
showing up?
me
Oh,
did it skip ahead
okay.
now?
Now, yes, I'm on the how to get started. There you go. So this is the exact process and questions I use to guide my clients through. And the goal here is take the overwhelm out of content planning so it starts to feel manageable and even exciting. So number one, define your objectives. Before you create anything, get clear on your why. What do you actually want your content to do for you? Is it consistency, visibility, engagement? Your goals will help shape what you create and how often you show up. So, a tip here is to be specific. Saying, I want to post consistently twice a week is way more actionable than I want to grow my audience. Number two, you got to know your competitors. So have a look at what others in your space are doing, but not to compare, just to learn from them. It's helpful to look at the coaches that you admire, but don't only look at ones with 10,000 followers or higher. You need to find coaches that are showing up consistently with the same target audience and followers as you. So start by asking yourself, what kind of content do I admire? What's working for them? And what could be improved? You're not copying them, you're really just gathering insights so you can carve your own lane with intention. Number three, identify your target audience. Who are you actually talking to? It sounds simple, but most people skip this part. Think about their challenges, their pain points, what keeps them stuck. And if you're not sure, start by reflecting on your current clients. What do they always ask you about, and what do they struggle with the most? If you're a new coach, think about the characteristics of your ideal client and your expertise. What do you specialize in? Is it money coaching, relationship coaching, career coaching, etc.? What do your clients struggle with, and what areas of coaching do you enjoy most? And then you go from there. Number four, position your messaging. This is all about how you want to be seen. So you got to ask, what's my key message? What do I want people to immediately think of when they come across my content? Maybe it's clarity, maybe it's empowerment, simplicity, growth, whatever it is, that message should flow through everything that you post. Number five, you got to set up your content pillars. So maybe you're already familiar with content pillars, but if you're hearing this for the first time, think of them as your main themes or buckets of content. They help you stay consistent without feeling repetitive, and they make it so much easier to brainstorm what to post week after week. You don't need to reinvent the wheel every time. Just choose 3 to 5 pillars that reflect your brand and what your audience cares about the most. So here are a few examples. Educational content can be one of those buckets. Teach your audience something they didn't know. So this could be a quick tip, a myth busting post, a did you know moment that helps them see your coaching expertise. The second bucket can be an about you. People connect with people. So you can share parts of your story, your values, what inspired you to start coaching, or even small behind the scene glimpses of your life and your work. The third bucket can be about services or your offerings. Highlight what you actually do. So, share who your offers are for, the transformation clients can expect when they work with you, or even simple reminders of how people can work with you. Another one can be testimonials. Social proof is there to build trust. So, share client wins, progress stories, or quotes that show the impact of your coaching in a relatable and authentic way. Another last bucket that you can explore is lifestyle or behind the scenes. So these are the types of posts that are going to humanize your brand. You can show your morning routine, your workspace, what a day in the life looks like for you. These are moments that help people feel connected to you beyond your services. So your pillars will look different depending on your niche, but the key is that they align with your message and serve your audience. Once you have them, content planning becomes less about what should I post and more about which pillar am I going to focus on this week. Number 6, visual approach. So this is where your brand personality shines through. Ask yourself, how do I want my brand to look and feel visually? Do you want it to feel calm and minimal or bright and energetic? Your colors, your fonts, imagery should match the emotions you want your audience to associate with you. And yes, this is where Canva is going to become your best friend. So I know that was a lot to take in. So if you're feeling a little overwhelmed, don't worry, I've got you covered. After this webinar, you'll get access to a quick build your content strategy worksheet to help you map everything out step by step so you can keep it simple and actionable and you don't need to have it all the answers today. And if you want a bit of more support, I'm here to help you take a step further. So you can start by booking a free discovery call with me on Vibely. It's a great way to map out your next steps and get more clarity on any social media questions that you may have. And if you're ready to go deeper, I also offer different service options like my Content Clarity Hour and even full-time social media management, depending on where you're at in your journey. So we'll drop a link to my Vibely page in the chat, or you can scan the QR code on the screen. So I don't know about you, Sonia, but I am still stuck on one of the previous slides. But as long as everyone can see the QR code, and I'll send the link as well to the chat.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. Let's see, we should be on a question slide. So we are through our slides, but we are here to answer your questions. So we would love for you to post some questions in the chat. There was a time when we had a handful of questions flying in here, and I'm going to guess that we didn't see some of them. So go ahead and repost your question if you have not yet gotten an answer to your question. Okay, Darlene's question, how do you balance content from you personally as the coach versus the name or brand of your coaching business? I love that question. That's a really great one, and I'm glad you brought that up. Every coach is going to approach this a little bit differently. So I made the decision to have just one social media account. I have one Instagram account. It is my personal account and my business account. That works for me really well. That is not going to work well for everybody. So if you if you are a person who wants to have separation between those two things, then I would suggest having a specific strategy for, the brand name of your business, and maybe kind of keeping it a little bit smaller. I mentioned that I write 8 to 12 pieces of content every month. If you're managing 2 different accounts, you might want to start with more like 3 or 4 posts per month to keep it from getting overwhelming. Aria, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yes, I completely agree. I would keep it as simple as possible, especially when you're just starting. And then I also want to go ahead and answer Lisa's question here. What does building trust successfully, essentially with strangers on social media, actually look like? So this is really, hitting on the nail of step 8, if I remember correctly, of community engagement. This is where, you're not only responding to the comments in the post, but you're also engaging with people that may be interested in your services. That's why it's really important to first get an idea on who you want to speak to, what's your ideal client base, what are their characteristics. And right now, with where social media is going, a lot of people are using these platforms as search engines. It's kind of like a Google. So when people are looking at coaches, trying to find a coach for themselves, a lot of times they search those keywords on Instagram, for example, and you can also interact with those posts from there.
Thank you for that. I like this question as well. So is there a ratio of posts for each pillar? That is something that you can absolutely kind of play with, experiment, and explore. There are months where I am pretty heavy on one of my content pillars and then pretty light on some others. And there are other months where it's a more even distribution. So it just kind of depends on what's going on in my business, what I'm specifically kind of promoting at the time, or what I want to be talking about. So I don't necessarily have like a clear-cut answer for you, but I think that's something that you would kind of figure out as you go along.
Yes, and
Um,
oh, sorry,
no, go
Sonia.
ahead.
I also wanted to add to that, if you're just starting out, I think, let's say, for example, you want to start by like 4 to 8 posts per month. So maybe that can look like creating 4 pillars for yourself, and maybe you do one from each pillar each month, or like if you want to do 8 monthly posts, you can do two from each pillar. That just helps keep your feed dynamic. So you're not only posting educational content, or you're not only posting content about yourself.
Love that. I want to speak to this question that came up. So, about getting clients, helping with getting clients. So, one misconception that I had before working with Aria was that Instagram was going to be like the source of my clients. For me, that has not been true. And so what I've really noticed in the 8 months that we've been working together is that my clients find me through LinkedIn most often. I have pretty much never gotten a client that has found me on Instagram and come to me directly on that platform. But what does happen is they find me on Instagram, they look at my Vibely profile, they click the little Instagram button to check that I'm a real person. They want to like verify that I am a real human and a real person that they can connect with before just scheduling a random discovery call with me. And so, what I've really kind of come to see social media as is a trust builder. It's a space where I am really kind of building relationships with people. They're getting to know me and sort of starting to understand like who I am, how I speak, how I show up for conversations. And then they can kind of use that information to make a decision about whether they want to pursue booking a discovery call with me. So it's far more of a trust building thing than it is a one-to-one client acquisition strategy. And I think it's really smart to just have that expectation set for yourself from the beginning, because it would be disappointing to expect that you're going to get a client every time you make an Instagram post. That's just generally not how it works. I also like this question about how do you know where your clients are hanging out online? That is a really great question. Aria would be able to help you figure that out. Book a discovery call, let her know who your clients are, and then she's going to be able to help guide you about like, oh, that, as a social media manager, I know that this type of client is on this kind of platform. That definitely would be my suggestion there, because it can be kind of hard to know where they are online. Let's see. I do have a website, Mary Beth, outside of the Vibely platform. I personally do because my business includes coaching, consulting, and education. But you definitely don't have to in order to run a successful coaching business. And is it necessary to have elaborate multi-picture revolving posts and carousels on Instagram? Great question. No. Aria, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, so I would recommend when you're starting out with posting to have a mix of a little bit, maybe statics, just single statics, and carousels. So, carousels is a great format to hone in that storytelling. So, let's say if you want to do a post and you want to tell a story and somehow weave that into the coaching services that you provide, carousels is a great way to do that. And actually, it's slowly coming back, and the algorithm on Instagram, for instance, is slowly favoring that. However, if you want to just post something that you're up to, a day in the life, something that's more personal, a single static is totally okay. And that's another piece that's going to connect you with your audience. Lacey also asked, would running ads through Meta generate clients on Instagram? So, not necessarily, actually. I spoke about this a little earlier in the deck, but running ads is sometimes it appeals to a lot of people because you get quick results. You see, like, oh my gosh, if I spent so much money on this ad budget, I'm going to get so much engagement and I'm going to get a lot of clients. But the truth is, they may just engage with that post because you're paying to run ads and get that in front of people's eyes, but they are not going to be loyal followers. So they won't, maybe they'll follow you from that, but the likelihood of them unfollowing you in a few weeks, in a few months is quite high. And that's why it's so important for you to create personalized content that really attracts people that care about what you do and resonate with your content.
Diana
Um,
asks if LinkedIn posts are the same as what I post on Instagram, and that's a great question. Yes and no. The theme and the idea is often the same, but there's stuff that I post on Instagram that I don't post on LinkedIn, and there's stuff I post on LinkedIn that I don't post on Instagram. Um, it took me quite a while to get to a point where that was true for me. In the very beginning of this process, it just felt like a lot to even have things go out on Instagram. So I didn't start by doing it that way. I started by just having the posts go out on Instagram and Facebook because Aria was scheduling those things for me. I later saw the value in rewriting and repurposing the content for a different platform. And so I've added that step to my process and my framework, but you don't have to. You certainly could just post the exact same things from Instagram to LinkedIn. What I've found is just that the audiences are slightly different for me. And so it's helpful to differentiate that content just a little bit. Okay, the security question's a really interesting one. Health coach friends who are terrified of social media because they think AI hackers will create fake damaging videos with their content. Do you have a security recommendations to reduce risk? I mean, that's a fair and legitimate concern. There's a lot of stuff we don't know about AI and how people are using people's likenesses. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Aria?
yeah, so I am actually a part of a social media manager community, as I mentioned, and I have heard of this concern before, but I have not encountered any security issues, or I've heard of any social media managers that have encountered that with their clients. So, what we really encourage here is to really stray away from AI generated images, and that's why we're creating that personalized content. So, when Sonia, like when she sends me the content writing, I create reel scripts and she records those talking videos, and it's all very customized based on her business. So I have not ran into any issues, or I've heard of anyone who have bumped into the AI hackers situation.
It's just kind of good to stay vigilant about your likeness online.
Yeah.
Okay, take it about 100 steps backwards. You got it. No problem. Let me actually pull up a slide on here back a little ways about the different steps. So let's go back to this high level overview for the questions that we're getting around like, what if you are like really, really, truly just getting started here? And also, like, what does this look like if you're not going to, work with Aria? Certainly Aria is an option, but it also is totally fair to be building a content strategy on your own. She's going to supply you with a worksheet that should be really helpful for just kind of helping you think through some of the questions that we covered today. But I want to just reiterate that, like, this is a process and it takes time, and it's certainly not something that you're going to figure out and unlock overnight. It is an evolving thing that is going to change and grow as your business changes and grows. So what I would say to anybody who is like just getting started is start by writing. Start by opening up a Google Doc and just start writing your thoughts and ideas down. Start developing a point of view and a perspective and figuring out what you like to talk about, because there's nothing worse than creating content that feels totally inauthentic. Like, for example, dancing videos will never be my thing, right? But like real talk about the coaching industry and about how to find a coach that's actually going to support you, and like nerding out on the super like cool behavior change theories is absolutely my thing. So I feel energized and excited when I sit down to write about those things. I would not feel energized and excited at all to sit down and, write a cheesy script or a dance thing, or I don't know, any number of other kind of viral trends that you see on social media. That wouldn't feel authentic to me. Therefore, I wouldn't do it. So I would say start by writing, start by seeing what you actually enjoy creating content about. But if you're taking this solo, or if you're working with somebody, or if you're taking it solo until you can work with somebody over time, I would suggest following this exact process. So start with writing and, try to batch your pieces out all at once. I think where people get stuck when they first get started doing this is they try to take a piece of content from start to finish really quickly. And if you actually just give yourself permission to like sit down and write 5 to 10 pieces all at one time, and then take all 5 and 10 or 10 of those pieces and move them into like storyboarding them out or writing them into scripts, and then doing the editing process, and then doing the final graphic design process, that's going to be a lot smoother than trying to do that for one piece of content from start to finish. Aria, anything you want to add for people who are just getting started at this with this?
Yeah, so I think you like nailed it on the head, Sonia. I completely agree with you. And I also want to like weave that question into something that I saw that I'm not sure if we answered. So someone asked that, can you give an example of how to categorize target audience and that they've been stuck here for a very long time? And that is something that when it comes to target audience, again, you start with writing. You think about, first of all, what do you specialize in? Is it, do you like relationship coaching? Is it money coaching? Is it career coaching? And then you start to think about the demographics and the psychographics of your target audience. So what's the ideal, range of age that you like to coach? And from there, what are their interests? What do they struggle with? If you specialize in relationship coaching, what are some of the questions that with your current clients that always comes up? What's something that they always struggle with? And sort of think about those patterns that keep reappearing. And that's going to help you shape the content that you post in the upcoming months or weeks.
Thank you for that. Let's see, is there value with the Substack platform? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think there's value in whatever platform you like the best and whichever platform isn't going to drain and exhaust you. So, like, I personally am a long form writer. I love to write like long essay pieces. I do not like to write really short pieces for Instagram. And so Aria can attest to the fact that a lot of times I am sending her a very long thought piece that works really well for my blog, but doesn't work for Instagram at all. And what she does so well is she kind of chops it up into something that works for Instagram. Instagram's not a platform that I personally love spending time on. And so I'm very conscious of, not spending a ton of time on there, but I do enjoy spending time on my blog and on my email list. And so I spend a lot more time on those two platforms as well as LinkedIn. So I think it's really kind of about developing a sense of self-awareness and figuring out what feels good to you and experimenting. So much of this process is about just trying stuff and sort of failing forward and learning from the mistakes that you make along the way. We set a whole content strategy when I was first getting started and created a whole visual look. And a couple months in, I was like, I don't like this. I don't think this is working for me. And so we changed it. And so know that like whether you're doing it alone or with the support of someone, you can change and evolve your stuff. You don't have to commit to a certain look or feel on day one and stick with it forever. You can allow it to evolve. All right. Oh, where do podcasts fit into this strategy? Very interesting question. So, podcasts could sort of take the place of the writing step of this process in a way, especially if you have a transcription of the podcast. There's probably a lot of like really rich content inside of each podcast episode that could sort of serve as the writing stage of this process.
Absolutely. And to add on to that, I feel like podcasts, I also see it as like a separate thing at the same time, because when you think about reels, when I write reel scripts, I follow a very specific layout. So I have a hook, I have a lead, main points, and a conclusion. So following this format is going to make sure that the first few seconds of whatever she says in the video, it's going to hook the audience and be of value to the person that she's trying to speak to. But when it comes to the podcast, it's also about that relatability, but it's a longer form content. So it's going to be something that we would tweak from the writing, but also be adjusted that is completely different from reels, for instance.
All right. Any other questions? Oh, what camera do I use to film? My iPhone. I use my iPhone. I have the help of a tripod. I will say that for the first several months, like probably 6 months of doing this, I literally had like a shoebox and then like a water glass with my phone in it. And I set it on my desk and filmed my reels. It was an incredibly low production setup. And my life became a lot easier when I bought a tripod. Once I realized that I was going to like actually, truly commit to the process of doing this, I bought a tripod from Target that, like has a little thing for my phone to clip into, and that makes it a lot easier. I've also experimented with various teleprompting apps, which was a big learning curve for me. And that has made the process a lot easier as well. So I'm not trying to memorize the scripts that Aria has written for me. I am not trying to, do anything other than just kind of deliver the content in a way that feels authentic and organic. Aria,
Yes.
can you say more about hook, lead, and main points and conclusion?
Yes, absolutely. I really quickly, to add on to the other point, is the other clients that I work with, they also a lot of times use their iPhones. I don't really come across clients or know of any other social media managers that work with clients that have like a super fancy camera or anything. So no need to worry about that. And whenever you're ready to buy a tripod, that will come with time. About the hook, lead, main points, and conclusion. So when what a hook is that there is a visual hook and a verbal hook. So what a verbal hook is think of it as the first sentence or the first 5 seconds of a video. So if somebody starts a video of, "Hi guys, my name is Aria, like I'm going to talk about X, Y, and Z," the likelihood of people scrolling past that is going to be a lot higher than, have you ever felt like, X, Y, and Z? So for instance, if you look at a lot of Sonia's videos, it's, have you ever felt overwhelmed or that, your life feels stagnant or whatever it is, to really hone on to the emotional pain point of the person that you're talking to. Just because unfortunately with social media, we love it, but people's attention spans are so much shorter these days. And so that is where we incorporate that verbal hook. And when it comes to a visual hook, that can be done through editing. Maybe you're, experimenting with two different fonts that shows up in the first 5 seconds of a video. Maybe it's you sipping water as you're talking, or like, fixing your sleeves, something like that. And it seems so small, but it actually distracts them enough for them to really listen in on what you have to say. So that is what a hook is. A lead is something that is like a 1 to 2 sentence that leads you to the main point of your video. And a conclusion would always be a call to action, like, feel free to book a free discovery call with me if you want to learn more, or if you feel overwhelmed and needs a little bit of support, like, you know where to find me, things like that. Yes. So for content creation, how do you create your links/design on Instagram? I do mainly use Canva. I have the Canva Pro account to create graphics. And as for video editing, CapCut, I highly, highly recommend it.
All right. Well, we'll stick around to see if there are any last questions that trickle in here, but that's what we've got for you today. We're so glad you joined us. We hope you took something away from our time together. And please keep an eye on your inbox for the replay of this webinar, as well as for the worksheets. You'll be getting both of those things later on today or tomorrow. So we so appreciate you joining us. Thank you for being here, and we will see you again soon. Bye, everyone.